All right, this is getting a little ridiculous. How many videos are we gonna do about betta fish? Well, the truth is, bettas are my life and they are now and always will be one of the most popular fish in the aquarium hobby. So I'm gonna keep making videos about them because I love them and they make me happy. And based on the amount of views that we get on our betta videos, you obviously love them too. But the thing is, people tend to overcomplicate these little fish. So to remedy that, John and I have decided to put together a video that will keep things simple and to the point. So here's a dummy's guide to keeping bettas.
Okay, can we just go ahead and get past this right off the bat? We say betta, you say betta. I get it, that bothers you, but listen. I have been keeping these fish since you were still saying biscotti. And you know what? I've always called them bettas. So it just is what it is. Let's just move on and be friends. Tank size for a betta fish is something that has been debated ever since people have been keeping fish in glass boxes. And to be honest, I don't see that ever changing. You read one article and it'll say a 1-gallon aquarium is going to be fine. And then someone posts on Facebook that says it's inhumane to keep them in anything smaller than a 10-gallon. Then you'll watch a video that says the smaller the tank, the better, because the less energy the fish needs to use to get around the tank is best. Who are you supposed to believe? Who is telling you the right thing? Well, we are, of course, and this is our channel, and no one can stop us. The truth is, all of these statements are correct. A betta can survive in a 1-gallon tank, but to say that's okay is no different than saying a golden retriever will be fine in a 3x4 crate, only let out twice a day to go to the bathroom. That golden retriever will survive, but will it be happy? No. And will the lack of movement and exercise drastically shorten their life expectancy? Of course. Just being alive doesn't mean they're happy and healthy. You don't have to be a veterinarian to figure that out. It's inhumane to keep a betta in anything under a 10-gallon. Well, I can't really argue with that statement. I don't agree with it, but that doesn't mean that person's wrong. Let's use the golden retriever analogy again. If someone says it's inhumane to have a Goldie in anything smaller than 10 acres, they obviously haven't seen my neighbor. He has 2 Goldies and his home is on a ½ acre, but his entire backyard is fenced so they can run around. And I'm not kidding when I tell you he goes out in the front yard and throws the frisbee to them 2 or 3 times a day. These Goldies are the picture of health and very well cared for. Now, obviously, you can't take your betta out and throw the frisbee to it. If you can, I would love to see a video of that. But what I'm saying is, if you have a betta in a 5 or even a 3-gallon aquarium and you take really good care of that fish, they're going to be just as happy as one in a 10-gallon. The smaller the tank, the better, because the less energy the fish needs to use to get around the tank is best. This is another one that I can't necessarily agree with or disagree with. Yes, a betta is going to have to work really hard to go to the top of a 75-gallon to get food or just to get to the surface. And some would argue this is too hard on the betta, and I don't disagree. But I won't accept using that as an excuse for keeping the fish in a 1-gallon tank. No one will ever convince me that a 1-gallon aquarium is better for a betta than a 75-gallon. So what is it then? What is the answer? Well, in my opinion, and more importantly, in Lisa's opinion, a 5-gallon minimum is going to be best. 5 gallons is plenty of room for the fish to be able to explore around and go up and down and have a good old time. It's not so big that they have to use up all their energy just to go to the surface, and it's not so small that you have them confined in that little tiny crate. So really a 5-gallon is kind of the perfect medium, the happy medium. So if you're on the fence about what size aquarium to get, don't be on the fence anymore. Get off of it. Get a 5-gallon tank. And if you have your betta in something smaller than that, it's fine. I'm not going to pick on you or anything like that. I'm just going to tell you, let's try. Let's try to get them in something bigger. It's gonna be better for everyone. What's your favorite food? I like biscotti and meatballs. Oh, you came out of nowhere. Good job, Whiskey.
I've been in pet stores and overheard employees telling customers, you can literally put these fish with anything. They'll be perfectly fine. They're the easiest fish ever. While I agree that betas are easy to keep, let's not be so quick to say that they can live in any condition. To raise your beta in the best conditions possible, I want you to think about 3 things: pH, temperature, and cleanliness. John's going to talk about temperature next, but let's talk about the other 2. pH is very simple. Betas like their pH to be around neutral, which is 7, but I don't want you to drive yourself crazy over this. If the pH out of your tap is 6.8 or 7.2, don't start freaking out over it thinking you gotta adjust it to 7. Your fish will be fine, but if your water out of the tap is at 8, you might want to start looking at ways of lowering it. I use pH neutralizer from Fritz in all of my beta tanks for the business, but that's because there's nothing else in the tanks that can bring it down like driftwood or catappa leaves. The biggest thing with pH is consistency. Your fish is going to do much better with a stable pH rather than one going up and down. In order to get a stable pH, you need to keep up with your maintenance. If you're keeping up with your maintenance, your pH should stay stable. But falling behind, letting your water get really dirty and your filter get clogged can cause a sudden drop in pH. And big swings in pH can lead to disaster for your fish. So shoot for a pH around 7, keep your water clean, and your beta should thrive. I mean, we're talking about a 5-gallon tank here, so it shouldn't take any more than about 10 minutes.
There's another big misconception about betas, and it's really the fish store's fault for this, and that is making people believe that betas are going to be perfectly fine at room temperature. Well, this is another example of the fish just being alive, not necessarily happy. Most likely when you go to the pet store, you're going to see rows and rows of betas and cups sitting on the shelf at room temperature. Seeing this is what leads many people to think it's okay, but the truth is, it couldn't be further from the truth. Betas are tropical fish bred in Thailand, Vietnam, and Indonesia. And what do all of those places have in common? They're all super hot, pretty much year-round. If you were to find them in the wild, they'd be in really shallow water, which is also much warmer than a big lake. The point is, they like to be warm. I'm not going to go off on a tangent here, but the truth is betas and comet goldfish are 2 of the most abused fish when it comes to the way they're bred. And unfortunately for these fish, it doesn't really get any better for them throughout their whole life all the way to the pet store. And it's so sad. They're bred in bins, placed in a small tank when they're newborn, and then they're transferred to liquor bottles or baby food jars by themselves, and then they're placed in small cups in the pet store. The point is, these fish have it super rough throughout their entire life leading up to the pet store, and then they're placed in little cups, put on the shelf where it's about 72 degrees, and they're used to 78 degrees. And you wonder why those fish always look so miserable in those little cups. Bottom line, don't fall for all this nonsense. Buy your beta a heater and keep the water at 78 to 80 degrees. That's it. Period. End of rant. Oh, and by the way, you've probably seen a bunch of B-roll footage in this video of betas in small cubes with no heaters, and you're thinking, wow, they're hypocrites. Those are our fish that we sell on our website. They're in about 5 times as much water as what you see in those little cups, and Lisa keeps the room up at about 85 degrees, which heats all of the tanks to the right level. So trust me, they're plenty warm.
So it's pretty rare that you'll see an aquarium with nothing but water in it. Unless you're looking at John's tanks, but anyways, you know what I'm saying. Most fish keepers, whether they're keeping betas, guppies, or cichlids, are going to have decorations in the tank. It makes the tanks visually interesting for us, but it also plays a role in the well-being of the fish. Betas are very social fish and they like to interact with their environment, but they also like to have places to hide and retreat to in case they feel threatened or something bothers them. Placing things like logs, pieces of wood, rocks, and more importantly, plants will give your beta something to explore and have fun in, but it'll also give them those safe spaces. This is where you can really let your imagination run wild and set up a beautiful little aquascape for your fish. It's great because it gives you the opportunity to be creative and also great for your fish. But there's a couple things that I would like to warn you about first. Betas are known for their big flowing fins. If you decorate your tank with a bunch of sharp rocks, you might be inadvertently hurting your fish because the fish will want to explore, and it's very easy to get those big fins stuck in the rocks. When that happens, there will almost certainly lead to rips and cuts. Yes, those injuries will heal and grow back, but any open wounds run the risk of infection. So it's better to just play it safe and decorate with soft and smooth decorations. I did a video a few weeks ago about beta decorations and I went into much greater detail. I'll put a link right here, I think. And it's a must for new beta fish keepers.
One of the most common questions we get is, do I have to leave my beta in the tank by himself, or can I put some friends in there with him? And the answer is you absolutely can put friends in there. You just have to be very selective over who those friends are. With the other name for betas being Siamese fighting fish, people automatically assume this means they'll fight any fish you put in with them, and this simply isn't true depending on the fish. We have several pet betas that could care less if they have tank mates, but we also have some that'll kill anything you put in there with them. Unfortunately, this isn't something you'll find out until you try. The problem with that is once you put another fish in there and then realize it's going to be a problem, it's too late. What are you going to do then? Well, this is why we always encourage beta keepers to have a backup plan for everything. But let's not go too much further with that. Let's get back to tank mates. If your beta isn't one of those mean fish that attacks anything you put in the tank with him, what are going to be some of the best options? Well, you have quite a few options, but it's mostly going to depend on the size of your beta tank. If you have a 5-gallon, you might want to try a couple of white clouds or maybe EMBER TETRAS and some snails, but if you have a 10-gallon, you'll have some more options like HARLEQUIN RASBORAs or BLOODFIN TETRAS. You have a 10-gallon tank with a couple 3-4 HARLEQUIN RASBORAs and some snails, let me tell you what, you got yourself a nice looking tank. The biggest thing you're going to want to avoid is fish that are labeled as semi-aggressive or fin nippers. We're trying to give our beta some friends, not some sparring partners. This is another topic we've done an entire video on, and I'm proud to say it's one of my most watched videos on my channel. I will put a card right up here for that. It'll take you straight to it and give you a whole list of potential tank mates.
So there you go. See, betas aren't that complicated. They're actually really easy to keep, but there's a right way and a wrong way to keep them. Hopefully you feel better about it and you have a beta that lives a long and healthy life. Thank you so much for watching. If you've liked this video and you want to see more like this, then subscribe because there's going to be plenty more. So for now, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.